Hey, good evening, Divine Ones. I'm Jerome Braggs, and I wanted to come to you quickly and discuss the opening of intuitive abilities. I get a lot of questions and across the timeline of my life after people have find out that I'm an intuitive and I'm a channel, especially when I was doing work primarily as a medium. I got a lot of questions about our intuitive gifts and opening intuitive gifts and um, primarily how to open them and exercises and all of that. And in the beginning of my phases, I did do a lot of teaching about intuitive and psychic abilities, opening them up. I don't do a lot of that today, as my focus is really on helping people heal themselves. But I wanted to share something that I found in my personal journey, as well as in just in my work working with other people, and the intuitive abilities or psychic abilities that open for you first, that are kind of your first introduction to your intuitive gifts, are the ones that will most help you heal and expand yourself. So I want to dive into that and why that is a little bit. But when we're talking about intuitive or psychic abilities, we're talking about clairaudience, which is the ability to hear things beyond your physical ears. Thanks, Robert. I'm trying to grow it out a little bit. I think I've been getting some comments that I'm a little sexy with my beard, so I've been trying to grow it out a little bit and get some more attention. Um, so yeah, so your Robert's just saying that he complimented on my beard, that I had a nice beard. So yeah, the when we're talking about kind of intuitive and psychic abilities, we're talking about the gifts of clairaudience, which is the ability to hear beyond what the ears hear. We talk clairvoyance, which is the ability to see beyond what the physical eyes see, to see with your third eye, to see visions and things. Clairsentience, which is to be able to feel things emotionally and physically in the body, to be able to get to gain wisdom and information about someone or something through the information of the body. And claircognizance, which is just a deep knowing, a knowing of things that you don't have previous knowledge of or previous understanding of. And then there's also the gift of mediumship, which is the gift of communicating with the spiritual dimension, the spirit world. And what most people understand that as is the ability to talk to angels or guides or loved ones who crossed over, who transitioned or died in this lifetime, and to speak to them in the spiritual realm. And then there's also the intuitive gift of channeling, which is the ability to let your consciousness rest for a bit and channel a higher consciousness, a higher dimensional consciousness. Usually it's non-physical. Sometimes it can be another physical, higher dimensional consciousness. But those are kind of just the basic intuitive gifts or abilities. So, yeah, a lot of you all are chiming in with some of the intuitive abilities that are gifts that you have or some of your family has. So, and I have, my gifts are all of those. Like I literally have every single one of those things. I was not asking for all of those. What I really wanted to do when I first became aware of intuitive gifts, and although all of us are intuitive, have psychic and intuitive gifts. It's just kind of the makeup of who you are as a soul. You're literally God expressed. So you have all those gifts. Just some of them in this particular lifetime will be stronger than others, and some of them will be more highly expressed than others. But again, the ones that will be the most expressed in you, that will be the most expressed in you, that will open up for you first, are the ones that will most help you heal and expand yourself. And so what I mean by that is they're the ones that are going to most help you reconnect to the truth of yourself. And in whatever way you've left, right? So if you've left that connection. So if you don't understand who you really are as a soul, if you don't have a sense of liberation or freedom, if you don't really understand who you are as a spiritual being, if you believe that this is all that there is to you, If you believe you're limited or you're not enough somehow, or you have a lot of fear and about you're not safe, whatever it is, whatever wound you're carrying or whatever trauma you have in your life. And all of us, none of us get out of this lifetime without some form of trauma or without some form of wound. All of us have one. And that causes some type of disconnection from ourself. And what I mean by the self is the soul self, the true self, our spiritual and divine nature, the real essence of who we are. And so when we get disconnected from that in some way, your intuitive gifts that will open first are the ones that will most help you reconnect in some way. And so, when talking about that, when I share that with people, you can do all the classes, you can take all of the, the workshops and all those things. And those things are helpful. So I'm not here to demonize those things or to put a thumbs down to those things at all, because they are absolutely helpful. I did a lot of those things myself. But what I've found in my own journey, what I've found in countless people that I know that are in this, that have opened their gifts or are working in their gifts, is that the thing that will open most is not necessarily the thing you're trying to open, right? It's not the thing you're asking for. It's not the thing you're trying to open. It's the thing that you need, and you think it's opening mostly so you can help other people, because that was my big desire when I first went on the journey of trying to open my gifts. Was my big desire was I wanted to help people heal themselves, not necessarily their bodies, but I wanted to help people heal their lives, and I wanted to help people understand and learn how they really create their lives, right? And how they can create whatever they wanted on the planet. And that was like my first, my big desire. But what actually, and what I thought was the gift that I wanted to open in order to help me do that, was I thought I wanted to be a channel. That was the first thing that I thought that was all that I wanted to. I wanted to be able to channel a higher consciousness in order to help other people create their lives and heal their lives, right? And I had no interest in any of the other gifts. I really didn't have an interest in clairvoyance. I didn't have an interest in mediumship. Mediumship was really the thing I was the least interested in, because I was really about, that's what I thought. I wanted to help people learn how to create their lives. I didn't want to help people talk to their loved ones on the other side. And what was very interesting is the gift that opened first for me was clairvoyance and mediumship. And it was really interesting because, again, those were not the things that I was that I was asking for. They weren't the things that I was praying for. But looking back, they are absolutely the things that I needed at the time. And why I needed those things is because they taught me through my working with other people as a medium, and my working with other people as, a seer and a feeler. Again, I have all of the gifts that I've shared. So I have seeing, knowing, feeling, hearing, seeing, mediumship, and channeling. But the ones that opened first were seeing and feeling, and then mediumship, which is clairvoyance and clairsentience, just if we want to be very technical with the terminology. But those things open, and why they open for me, and I understand this now because I didn't back then. I used to really... in the beginning stages, I was kind of upset because that was not what I wanted. Like, I wanted to channel. I was going to all the classes. I was taking the workshops. I was reading the books to open the channel. I was doing all the meditations. I was doing all of that. And that wasn't happening for me initially. And no matter what I was doing, it just wasn't working. And even in the beginning, when I first started trying to open up my abilities, I went to the California Psychic Institute, and I did all the classes, and I was a very intuitive person as a kid, and what that looked like was just I could feel what the truth was, and this is actually still true today. So if and many of my friends, the people who are close to me, especially people I've dated, will know this, because I have a deep conversation with people in the beginning, is that I know what the truth is. Now, I might not know the details of the truth, but I definitely know, and this is ever since I was a small kid. I know whether what you're saying is actually true. I know whether, how you're feeling in the moment, if that's like what you're trying to offer, if the facade or the conversation or whatever, I can tell if that's true or not. And so what that means is you can't really lie to me. It just is. So I don't have people around me that lie or try to hide secrets. Even if I don't tell you that I know, like even if I don't verbalize it, I always know. I always know. And I may choose not to speak on it because I may see that you're grappling with that, and maybe this is not the time to bring that up for you or whatever, but I always know. And so, again, all of us have those type of intuitive gifts when we're young because we're the most connected to ourselves, and the more connected you are to your soul self, the more those types of gifts, because those are the abilities of the soul. So those are just naturally your natural gifts anyway. So we have some of that, but when I wanted, as in my adulthood, when I wanted to kind of expand those things out, I see some of you all saying, yeah, some of you all have some of those same gifts. And so, yeah, when I grew into my adulthood and I wanted to expand some of those things out, I started to try to study and read about them and do the workshops and open them, and it wasn't working for me really. And my gifts really didn't start to open until I went through my healing crisis. And if you connected to me at all, if you've been following me at all, you know a lot about my journey, and I've been continuing to speak about that. So I won't take any time talking about this now. You can watch old videos or just read some of my page and you'll find out about it. But my gifts didn't start to open until my healing journey started. And why they opened and why those particular gifts started first, the gifts of clairvoyance, clairsentience, and mediumship, why those were the first three gifts that happened for me, was because those were the gifts that most helped me heal myself in the beginning. They started my journey of healing. And it wasn't necessarily about healing my body. It was about healing my belief system. Right? Healing my belief system and healing my approach to my life so that it was more connected to the truth of who I was, and I could express the true divine nature of myself more in the world. And for instance, when I would do mediumship readings for people, and I learned the most. I learned the most through mediumship and channeling. That's where I learned the most. That's where I began to heal the most. But mediumship was the first thing that really started to help me heal. And again, when it opened, when I realized that I could hear people's and sometimes I could hear and feel other people's loved ones who had transitioned on the other side. When I began to do that work to help people communicate to them, I learned a lot, because one of the things that would happen was I learned a lot about me. And again, I'm really talking about my healing here, because again, the intuitive gifts that will open for you first are the ones that most help you heal your life and yourself. And so how mediumship helped me heal was I was having these conversations with these people's loved ones on the other side. And one of the things that happens when we cross over, when we die, one of the first things that happens when we go over into the fullness of ourselves, because that's all death is a return to the fullness of who you really are. So you return to your soul self. So your eternal self, the full self of you, the part of you that it's way bigger than is able to fit into this body, right? And to be physical, or that your brain can hold even. You return to the fullness of yourself. And one of the first things that happens when you cross over is you have what's called a life review. And in this life review, you really look back at all the choices that you made in your life, every single one. You get to see how that affected your life, how that affected the arc of your life, how it either expanded your life or limited the experiences of your life. You get to see all the places where you journeyed away from your soul, like where you journeyed away from the disconnection of your soul, and all the places you lived in alignment with your soul. And you get to see the benefit of that, like the positive benefits of that, and then the negative consequences of that. You get to see how your life affected everyone, not just attached to you in your life, but like literally the whole of humanity. You get to see how your thread, your life, which is a thread in the tapestry of all of us. You get to see how that thread added to the entire tapestry and how it affected everybody else. And from that type of awareness from your life review, what you get to see is like, how some of your beliefs about yourself when you were human, they limited you and they kept you from experiencing your real joy and the intention that your soul really had for being on the planet. You get to see how how you felt about yourself and some of the beliefs you had negatively affected the lives of other people. You get to see how the different places where you withheld love from yourself and how that negatively affected your life. You see, all of that, and you see all the good stuff you did as well, right? And so from that perspective, this is not, and by the way, the life review, and I'm going to do a whole nother video about the depth of the stuff I learned from mediumship, but I just wanted to do this really quickly. So this is not like, but I want to say this, that a life review, there's no judgment. There's absolutely no judgment on the other side. There's nobody like condemning you and saying you did a bad job, you did wrong. It's just the level of awareness and understanding. So you can see, how well you matched into the intentions for your life that you had while you were living. And it's just a information that you take for the decision of for your next life, if you want to have one, or what you want to do next. So there's no judgment, and it's just awareness. But what I learned from that, what I learned from just hundreds of souls, talking to hundreds of souls on the other side about their life reviews and about what they learned, was like the beliefs that most hinder our lives and most take us away from the intention our soul has for our lives, that most take us away from our joy, the most take us away from living a life that really feels good to us, and it's kind of like feels like the reason why we're here, is like the beliefs that we're not enough, the times we don't really hold boundaries, and we live our lives by what somebody else think we should do, and we don't live it by how we really want to do. We don't say no. We always are saying yes to things we really don't want to do. We hang with people we don't really want to hang with. All of that kind of stuff, right? So it's like feeling not enough and unworthy, feeling unlovable, and then also, not having boundaries and really following your heart. That was like the biggest, I won't say regret, because it wasn't necessarily regret the souls were expressing to me, but that was like the biggest thing that took them away from the life they really wanted to live. And so that was a big aha for me, because those were the biggest feelings I was having, right? So the biggest wounds that I had and the trauma that I had was feeling not enough, feeling unworthy, not really living life on my terms, like really hiding not living my whole truth. Not living not just how I really wanted to live, but not just living authentically me, just being authentically Jerome. And I would see time and time and time again, these souls on the other side that were either, they were really happy because they did live authentically and they did feel enough, and they could see how like big their life was and how big, the effect of their life was on the planet because of that. Or they saw how like little their life was because of it. And not little as far as worth, but like little as far as like, if you think about a plant and its ability to grow and expand out, how their life really didn't grow and it didn't expand out because of those things. And that just doing that, having those conversations with those souls around that dramatically changed me. It dramatically changed. It helped to dramatically change me, because I really started to say, oh, I got to get my shit together. Right? I need to get my shit together, because I want a bigger life. I want to feel good in my life. And at the end of my life, I want to know that I lived my life well and that it was in alignment with why I came here. The other part of that too was when I talked to souls on the other side, how they really would say to the person, like if I was helping someone communicate to a loved one on the other side, how that person on the other side really wanted me to communicate how loved we all are, like deeply, ridiculously, unconditionally, eternally loved. How there was nothing from the soul's perspective, from spirit and divine perspective, how there was nothing wrong with us. There was nothing wrong with us, and we weren't being judged or condemned. That version of God didn't even exist. The version that's judging us or condemning us or watching our every step and making sure we're doing the right thing, that wasn't even real. And that, that part of me that used to believe that and used to hold such shame in my body and used to hold such belief that I was alone. That was another thing too, that I was really alone. Um, and that just was like, hey, all you all, I see all of you. So many of you all commenting, so I can't respond to each of you right now, but I see you. And hey, thank you for being here. And so that whole thing that was shattered when when my mediumship gift opened, because not only did I begin to understand that what my life was really what life was really about. It was really about the joy of living and really being myself. But I also got to understand that from God's perspective and from my soul's perspective, I'm a perfect being. I am loved unconditionally and beyond what I can fully understand, and I'm never alone. There's guides around me always. There's loved ones around me that have always ancestors, whatever you want to call them, surrounding me always. And so that really helped me heal some very fearful and toxic beliefs that I had. It helped me change how I approach my life and my behavior, and it just really was the beginning of a dramatic shift in who I identified as, how I showed up in the world, and how I moved and behaved towards myself. And so I realize now that that was absolutely the necessary and the most like important gift that could open for me first, even though that's not the one that I wanted. Even though that's not the one that I was, quote unquote praying for, and actually not quote unquote, I was literally on my hands and knees some night praying for my intuitive gifts to open up. So that's actually a truth. But yeah, so I got the gifts that most helped me heal myself, that most helped me open up and heal what I needed to heal at that time. And my other gifts, like the gifts of claircognizance, of the deep knowing, and then my channeling abilities, as well as my healing abilities, because I'm also an energy healer. Those gifts didn't open till after I had some work with those things, after I had some shifts in my consciousness where I understood, okay, one, death is not the end. Two, we're never alone. Three, I am perfect and wholly divine, and I'm a soul. And I came here to enjoy my life and to be myself. Like after I got that, through talking to many of the souls and getting that information, then that's when my channeling gift really started to open up. I am really, really, really that's when it started to open up. Okay, so I'm going to try to get some of you all's comments. Yeah, I am so glad that Roxanne says, I'm so glad that the transition allowed my son to know how much he is loved and that he's always been enough. There was absolutely nothing wrong with him. And if his peace is on the other side, I am thankful he is there. So thankful. Yes, Roxanne, if there's one thing I can say, even though I'm not connecting with your son at this moment, but if there's one thing that I know for sure, is that your son knows beyond anything we can comprehend that he is not just loved, but that he is love. That he is the absolute essence and the definition of what love is. And that he's completely fine. He's better than fine. I don't even like to use the word okay and fine, because that's what a lot of people want to know when they connect with someone on the other side. They want to know, is my loved one okay? Are they fine? And I really don't like to use those words because they're beyond that. Because sometimes our understanding of okay is just like there's nothing, we're kind of okay, but there's nothing going wrong, but there's not like bliss. And what I like to tell people is like, your loved one is in bliss. Your loved one is like in definite bliss. And the other thing too, Roxanne, I want to say is that he is constantly and consistently around you. And he is constantly and consistently trying to do everything he can to help you experience that bliss on this side. Because we don't have to transition to experience that bliss. We don't have to transition to know that we're loved. We don't have to transition to know that we're divine. We actually came here to hold that knowing and to experience that knowing and express it into the planet. And our loved ones on the other side literally do everything that they can to try to help us experience that now. So I would say that, I know that losing a child is never easy. It's never an easy thing, no matter how spiritually conscious you may be or how developed or, whatever we may be. Losing someone, anyone, it's not easy, especially if it's a child. So I know that's hard. But if there's anything I can offer you here, I know that I know that I know from talking to hundreds of people's children who have made their transition in all types of circumstances, under all types of circumstances, some pleasurable, some horrific. I can tell you that your child is beyond fine, that your kid is in bliss. And not only that, but they are around you and they're trying to communicate with you in many different ways to let you know they're in bliss, and to also to guide you, to help guide you on this journey in this particular in your life, so that you can experience bliss, so that you can heal, and that you can expand into the more blissful version of yourself. So yeah, you guys, I just wanted to come really quickly and just say, you know, the gifts. So if you're out there and you're wanting to open your intuitive gifts, know that one, you deserve them, that they're not reserved for any type of special person. I used to think, you know, psychics and intuitives were special kind of people, and that they were bestowed some kind of, you know, regal gift that only, you know, the only the certain ones of us got to have, right? And that's just it's just not true, because each one of us is a soul. Each one of us is a part of God. We're all reflections of each other. So if there's something that I get, you know, if there's something that I can have as far as an ability, I'm a part of you. I'm literally a reflection of you. So if I can do it, you can do it. So, you know, there's, hey Jill, yes, do you want to talk about it in private, or do you want to jump on like a live and talk? You know, you know how we talk. So let me know. But yeah, so I'm a part of you. So if there's something that's here for me, there's something that you easily can have. But just know that usually the gift that opens first for you, whether you get all the ones that I have, and again, they're like muscles. They're not anything, and I really don't like to call them gifts either, although I've been saying gifts. That's just part of my conditioning for so long. I've heard them being described as gifts. They're really just abilities. They're our abilities. They're expressions of ourselves. So just like muscles are a part of everybody's body, and everybody can have, okay, Jill, so we're on. It's the yes, Jill, I want to do this live. So just like, you know, muscles that are, you know, each one of us has muscles. What they look like and how they get expressed in our lives depends on kind of how you work them out and what your intention is, right? What do you intend? If you don't want to be lifting stuff, or if you don't want to look ripped or anything like that, then you're not going to get a ripped body like that. Probably not. But if you do have that intention to do that, or you want to help people, you lift stuff, or you personally want to lift stuff, then you're going to get experiences that are going to help you strengthen your muscles. So that's the other part, is that you're going to get the gifts that help you heal yourself, but you're also going to get the gifts that help you serve the intention for how you want to express in the world. So I wanted to help people heal themselves and create lives that they loved, to really understand how they create their lives. That was an intention I had since I was a teenager, literally, even before I understood all of the stuff that I understand. So that these gifts that I got are literally serving the intentions and the purpose I have for my life. So again, those are the gifts that are going to open. So, you know, no matter what you're doing, what classes you're taking, or what tools you're using, or whatever, the gifts that will probably open for you first, the intuitive abilities that will open for you first, are going to be the abilities that are first going to help you reconnect to yourself, because that's what healing really is. That's the whole definition of it, really, is reconnecting to the soul self. So it's going to help you reconnect to your soul, and then the more you do that, the more the other abilities will start to open. The more the other abilities will start to like my channeling ability opened more. The more I start to heal, the more my channeling ability opened, and the more now I do that work. So it's funny, and I don't do as much mediumship now because my focus really more is on my channeling and my healing work. So, but yeah, I just wanted to share that with you as I was thinking about that today. I get asked a lot about that. A lot of people have a lot of frustration. They're saying, well, you know, I'm doing this or I'm doing that, and it's not happening. And one, all in due time, and then relax and trust you're okay. Also, are you trying to open your gifts, to prove something to yourself? Because that was another thing why my gifts didn't open in for a long time for me. It's because I didn't feel enough. And I was trying to open these gifts because in some way, remember I said I used to put these psychics and intuitives on this pedestal. So in a way, I was trying to open my gifts to try and put myself on this pedestal so that I can finally be enough, right? So that I can finally be acceptable in the eyes of others. And my soul was like, we're not going to give you another excuse to separate from the truth of yourself. You're just using that to serve this separation. Like, you already are enough, whether these open for you or not. You're already enough, whether anything changes about you or not. And we're not going to help you get further outside of yourself. We're going to oh yes, Jill. Trust and surrender was my constant mantra while I was transitioning into my gifts. Here's the thing, Jill, I love that. Here's the thing, y'all, and I said it was going to be short, so I'm probably going to shorten this here in a minute, end it here in a minute. But here's the thing. I deeply believe that the height of your intuitive abilities, especially if you're wanting to serve the planet with them, the height of your intuitive abilities will always be kind of on the fringes. I won't say unavailable to you, because it's available to you, but it just will not manifest fully until you really take a deeper dive into trust and surrender. And I've shared a story about how trust and surrender helped me open my intuitive gifts. I may have to do another video on that. But I have a video that I've done before. You can kind of look back and see about how I attribute the whole practice of trust and surrender to the opening of my gifts. But this is one thing that when I work with people and who want to open their intuitive abilities, I basically tell them, deepen your practice with trust and surrender. Like, the more you trust yourself, the more you surrender and trust the universe and just let go, the more you open your gifts, because that's literally what your gifts are going to show you. Jill is saying, let it take you to your knees over and over. Like, really, truthfully, like, really just trust. Because literally, again, you guys, just going back to the whole theme of what I'm talking about tonight, is you get the gifts that help you most heal yourself. And one of the key elements of healing yourself is learning how to trust and surrender. And so your gifts, and this is the whole thing about intuitive gifts in the beginning, especially in the beginning when they open up. If you don't trust yourself, if you don't surrender over, those gifts are going to kick your ass. They really are, because they are such a masterclass. Intuitive abilities are a deep masterclass in self-trust and surrender. Because you will be hearing things, you may see things, especially if you work with people, like if you want to use this to help other people, you will get information during I'll get something in a mediumship reading or something. When I was doing mediumship, I would get this information about somebody, and it would be so far out. It would just be so far out. Like, I'll give you a prime example about trust. So, I remember this was several years back. So I was doing this mediumship reading for this woman, and she had come and she wanted to talk to her grandmother. And her grandmother had transitioned several years early, and I kept hearing this word in my head. And it didn't sound like English. One, it didn't sound like English. Two, it didn't sound like anything I understood. I had never heard this word before. But I kept hearing the grandmother say this to me over and over and over again. And because it didn't make any sense to me, at first I didn't say it. I wasn't going to tell the woman about it. And then I was like, no, I need to trust, because again, my whole intuition ability, my whole path with my intuitive abilities was about trust and surrender. So I was like, I'm going to trust. I'm just going to trust. And if I make a fool of myself, because one thing I didn't want to do is I didn't want to make a fool of myself. So I didn't want to say something and then the person would be like, that doesn't have anything to do with me, or that's not even true, right? So the part of me that wanted to be enough and that felt like he wasn't enough was horrified of being wrong, because being wrong meant I wasn't enough. So I was kind of trying to hold it back in the beginning. I wasn't going to tell her what this word was. And then I said, no, I'm going to trust. Even if she says that I have to be okay because my gifts can't get stronger if you don't trust. That's another thing, you guys. If you don't trust yourself, your gifts won't ever get stronger. So I said, okay, I'm going to trust. I'm just going to tell her what I'm hearing. I said, here, there's this word that I keep hearing your grandmother say. And does this mean anything to you? And so I said the word to her, and she said, that sounds, I don't know that word really, or I'm not remembering this word, but maybe, because it kind of sounds Russian, and my grandmother is Russian. Now, she hadn't told me her grandmother was Russian before. Now, I don't speak Russian, by the way, but she hadn't told me her grandmother was Russian. She said that the word that I said kind of sounds Russian, and, her grandmother was Russian, but everything else that I had been telling her was resonating for her, so she was like, this isn't quite resonating, but yeah, I'll just, I'm going to keep it and just see maybe later. And so she left the reading, and I was kind of feeling like, I felt, I said, okay, I trusted myself, and maybe this isn't really like, maybe that wasn't true. Maybe I was off or whatever, but I told her this anyway. She comes back to me, because I was at this event, so I had a booth at this event. I think I was at a psychic fair, as a matter of fact. I think I was at a psychic fair. So, and I had a booth at the psychic fair. And so she comes back to me in about 30 minutes later. She's gone. She left the psychic fair, and she comes back. And she sits in my booth. She says, I came back because I needed to tell you something. And I said, what is it? She said, I need to tell you something about your reading. I was like, oh, here we go. She's about to tell me she really didn't resonate, or I was really off, and she didn't get that word was off, and it really wasn't anything. But she starts to tell me she called her brother after the reading, when she got in the car after she was leaving the building. She called her brother, and she said, she got a mediumship reading where someone was able to connect her with her grandmother. And in that space, she said, here's this word he said. And when she told her brother that, he started crying on the phone. And she was like, what's going on? Do you recognize that word? He's like, yeah. Mom used to say, or was it her mom? Either it was her mom or her grandmother, I can't remember. But anyway, her brother said, grandmother used to call me that all the time when I was young. That's what she used to call me, and she used to call you that too. She was younger than her brother, but you don't remember. And it meant something like my little child or my little loved one. It meant something like that. The word did. And so, like, she was sitting here crying, like, because she knew that was really, her grandmother. And I had this big aha, like, it's trust. Like, had I not trusted myself and done that, she would not have gotten that for her. And that would have not helped her heal in the way that she understood that her grandmother was still here, that her grandmother was still connected to her, that she wasn't alone. And so I love that, initially prompted by Jill on this in the comment thread, that trust and surrender are a huge part of our lives. And they're a huge part of your intuitive abilities, but they're really a huge part of your life that you trust. And that helped me trust the guidance of my soul. Help me trust the guidance of the universe. To help me trust what I was feeling, trust what I was hearing, follow it and not be so afraid. That, again, it helped me with my life. It wasn't just about her. It was also about me, because it helped me. So I just wanted to end and say, you guys, you're going to... You have to trust that the gifts will come, because they will open, but don't fight them, or don't press too hard about which one you really want to open, or which one. Just know you're going to get the one that's best going to serve you in the beginning. The ability that opens for you, whether it's seeing, whether it's hearing, whether it's knowing, whether it's feeling, whether it's mediumship, even if it's channeling first. I know some people who their first gift actually was channeling. That's what opened for them first. Whatever that is, it's opening for you to help heal and expand you so that you can better heal and expand humanity. But you can't heal and serve humanity if you haven't learned how to heal and serve yourself. So I just wanted to come on really quick, and I know that was not as quick as I thought I was going to do, but I just want to come on and say and share that with you all tonight. As always, you guys, I love you. I see, I want the best for you. And I am sending you energy to help you be home, be happy, and be well. Much love. Bye.